Ask the chat, and we should be live. We should be live.
Amazing.
Awesome. Well, great. Just chat. Let us know if you can hear us, see my breather hair. How's the hair looking today, right? Well, great.
It looks amazing.
Is it any good? See my breather hair.
Oh, awesome. I think I'm getting some audio feedback maybe from your end.
Should be good now. Should be good now.
Yes.
My bad.
It's good. Okay. Clear. It's crisp. The hair is flowing.
As you should.
Super European. You're ready.
Look at this shirt. Right. It's actually Calvin Klein, to be fair.
Beautiful.
What's more European than this?
A nice collared shirt with a crew neck sweater. Nice, like, slim fit. Fine knit. It's perfect.
You can't even tell I'm into Pokemon, could you?
No, that's a good point. Maybe that's a problem. We got to mix something up.
That's why I'm
or something like that.
That's why, yeah. I heard that. Thank you, man. Can you guys hear us? I mean, should be able to hear us and see us. I mean, see us for sure. So we can get started. Lots to talk about. I mean, obviously, we got to get to know Gray for sure. If you didn't know him already, which it's not a good thing. You should know him. All right. So audio's good. Great. It's all yours. Just tell us a bit, who you are, what do you do, why you're here, when you're doing YouTube, what's your story with Pokemon. Well, we're all ears.
For sure. Yeah. So my name's Gray. I always introduce myself as saying I buy cardboard, why I wear the hat. And my goal with my channel is to make Pokemon collecting and investing simple. And I think it's very inspired by my experiences as a new collector and investor back in late 2020 and through 2021 and beyond, when the pandemic happened and Pokemon boomed. And it felt really kind of complicated and overwhelming. I was completely absorbed in it, but was watching like every YouTube channel I could find, consuming all the information I could about what I might buy, what is going up, what's going down. I made some really dumb mistakes along the way. And I think in doing so, I just became really fascinated with what's actually happening in collectibles markets, and started putting a lot more time and energy into educating myself about collectibles investing in general and the psychology of investing. And now I try to use those insights to just help people make a little bit more sense of the market, keep things a little bit more straightforward and simple. And that's what I do. Just think about these things a lot and try to find ways of communicating it to newer investors or more experienced investors who are just looking for different perspectives on it, so that they can make better decisions with their money and just enjoy the hobby more.
So would you consider yourself rather an investor or a collector?
I'm definitely more of an investor, only because for whatever reason, I just get really excited storing sealed boxes of Pokemon. I don't know why. Like I open stuff and I have a card collection, but I don't chase cards too much. And I only buy singles when there's particular cards I really like. I've done some master sets, but didn't get too hooked on that. And instead, I just hoard sealed products. So I've got my display here, but I have a bunch of storage shelves full of stuff in my apartment, taking up more and more space. And for some reason, that's the part that gets me most excited.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I've always enjoyed just for whatever reason holding, just cardboard boxes, even though they're brownish.
Yeah.
Well, what's the point of it, right? They're not just. I just like them. It should have been a distro in another life. Maybe I should quit math.
Maybe me too.
Yeah. But so you talked about mistakes, which, I mean, everyone, we're human.
Yeah.
We're human. I feel like the answer is yes, but do you remember what was your, let's call it a mistake?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, sorry, before you answer that, I feel like there's a difference between a mistake when it comes to investing and a loss. You can have a loss when you make a mistake. You can have a loss when it wasn't a mistake. You took an educated decision with the information at the time. You still took a loss at the end of the day because no one knows the future, even though some claim they do. But you know, I feel like there's a difference. So yeah, maybe your biggest mistake, your biggest loss.
For sure. Yeah. So there's two big ones that I made really early on when I started collecting. The first was very quickly. I see Bastois has entered the chat. Welcome.
Oh man, see you.
Very quickly when I started investing, and especially during the pandemic boom, I think there was a really strong like vintage emphasis. So we had base set was booming, and I got this idea in my head that I wanted like PSA 9 base set Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur. But I was also starting to dabble in Japanese cards pretty quickly and realized that the Japanese base set was quite a bit more affordable than even, you know, English Unlimited. So I bought PSA 9 copies of those 3 cards, or one's a BGS 9. And they cost me thousands of dollars Canadian. I think it was about $5,000 total. And for the better part of the last year and a half, 2 years, I could have bought those same cards of that condition for like half that in total. Like they all just sort of over the course of the next year after, they just kept dipping down more and more. And they never became worthless. And I always loved the cards. I was happy to have them, but the timing was just not great whatsoever. So that was the first big mistake. But those were more collection oriented purchases. Like I never bought those as investments. I just really wanted those cards and wanted to have them. My first big investing blunder, I tweeted about recently, and I'm going to have a video on Monday. So tomorrow, my next video is going to be all about this. And it's about losing about $1,000 on amazing rare cards. That was the first time that I identified a card that I thought, I was like, these cards are special. I love them. They looked amazing on a binder page. Like I constructed all of these narratives for why other people would be really interested in them. I bought 18 copies of each. I think I only ended up with 17 of the Rayquaza in the end. And I've since traded and done some things with some of them, but I basically wanted 2 full binder pages of each of them because I thought that would be cool. And I bought them after they'd already dipped like 60% from their highs. Like it was a year after release, reprints had come, prices had come down enormously. And I was like, okay, I've been patient. I've watched the waves. I've seen the reprints come. The prices have dropped. And from what I could tell, based on my experience and the hobby at that point, you know, a 60% drop was like about as low as stuff fell. So I figured now is about the right time to buy. And yeah, it was not, because those prices continued down to like, if I was buying them for say like $5 to $10, sometimes $15 US approximately, they're now, you know, $1 to $3 cards, which is crazy. And so it fortunately, every move that I've made like that is always one that I'm aware of the risks. I'm conscious of that. If this happened, which it did for these, it's not like going to ruin me financially. It's all money that I'm willing and able to lose entirely. But that one was a little bit of a costly lesson. And I think probably that between the graded big 3 and the amazing rares is probably what drove me so heavily towards sealed investing in particular, because during the same time those cards were crashing, sealed stuff I bought was doing well, with things like Evolving Skies starting to perform really well, and sets from around that time. So my emphasis, my experience was the cards really owned me, and the sealed stuff was going really well. And so I really started to focus in on that aspect of the hobby. And I think those experiences those mistakes definitely shaped my perspective on what I like to put my money into.
Yeah. I mean, as a matter of fact, I was going to add that like common, I mean, it could just be coincidence, but common factor of these two events was there were singles.
Yeah.
It wasn't sealed. So especially right now, many people say just buy sealed, store it in a closet, you know, keep it there, don't open it, don't look at it. But yeah, I mean, that I feel like the Amazing Rare is, you know, just a genuine mistake, miscalculation, if you would. Whereas, you know, the trio, you were just, I mean, it sounds like you were going after like a collection goal. So
yeah, I was definitely falling into like collector FOMO,
Yeah.
where I wanted these cards. I was getting more into Pokemon. I was starting to make, actually it was before I made content. But I felt like having those 3 cards was like almost a requirement to go deeper into Pokemon. Obviously it's not, and no one should think that, but you kind of get that feeling, and then you're watching prices when they keep getting higher and higher, like day after day, month after month. You start going, okay, if I don't buy them now, I'm never going to be able to buy them. Like, this is my last chance.
Yeah. But that's why I asked you, do you consider yourself an investor or a collector? Because I feel like there's this line, which I'm happy to draw, between collectors and investors. If you're a collector and you spend thousands and then it just keeps on dipping, just lose a ton of money, I think if you're a collector, that's fine. You shouldn't care about monetary value. Whereas the other side, I mean, on the other side, it should be your only point of focus, right? That's the way, at least the way I see it. If you're an investor, if I invest in the stock market, do I really care if the economy grows, or do I just care about the financial asset where where I put my money in?
Yeah.
That's again, that's where I see it. That's where I think about it.
So then, Barrett, how about you? Do you consider yourself collector or investor?
I'm an evil investor, man. As I always say, I'll be happy to sell everything tomorrow for the right price. And I'll tell you what the right price is. The right price is the forward price of my items, that considering what I believe could be the potential growth rates in the future. That's the right price. You give me that money today, I'll give you the boxes I have. How
do you calculate that?
Call me evil, call me whatever. I'm just being honest. Do I enjoy, as I said, do I enjoy having all those boxes inside my closet? Absolutely. I love it. It makes me feel good. Now I met some new people who are my age at school or into Pokemon. I'm discovering there are much many people that are into Pokemon than people actually believe. Because obviously you don't go up on the streets and you just scream while you walk, I love Pokemon. Do you? So, but I actually find out there's so many people into Pokemon, and I also feel like, I know you're 1 year older than me, maybe 2.
Me?
Because
I'm getting up there, man. I try to put on like, I dress younger than my age probably, but yeah, I'm 36. So
but
it's getting there.
Yeah. I mean, I thought you were 25 and a half, 25 and 3/4 maybe.
I'm 25 and a half in terms of maturity, for sure.
We all love cardboard, so we're all degenerates to some degree. But yeah, now that I'm getting into the this zone of my life where I'm starting to access adult money, because I'm 23.
Yeah,
and people my age are too. There's this new wave, which is the way generation after yours, that is getting into Pokemon, and it's going heavy. So yeah, that's something I
it's a big deal, right? Like starting careers and figuring out how to like balance your finances such that you can actually like buy Pokemon. Like it is, I find I lose sight now in my 30s and with a long and pretty successful career. Like when I was a kid, my parents gave me like $10 a month or something, or $10 a week allowance, which was actually, I think, very generous. And I'd basically just every week go straight to the local like comic book store that sold Pokemon cards and buy 2 booster packs. And that was just it. Every week, 2 booster packs. If I got a holo hit in one of those packs, it was a good week. If I didn't get any holos, it was a bad week. And I had to wait a whole week until I could do that again. And now it like, the amount of packs that I now have access to if I want to open stuff compared to the childhood me, and even just the ability to like outright buy a chase card from a set Like that, it just wasn't like that as a kid. And so it is really nice. And I know, like, certainly when I got into my 20s, started my career, I look back at it and I was like, why didn't I think, like, oh, what's going on with Pokemon these days? Like, maybe I could buy some of those Pokemon cards from my childhood. It just didn't dawn on me for far too long. But I know for many people it does. And that's kind of what keeps the hobby alive, you know? Baz Toys is saying he has to leave. Yo, thanks for checking in, dude. It was good to see you.
Thank you, Baz. It's good to see you. We'll have you on board next time for sure. If I don't scare Gray away, which is possible.
So I did want to keep talking on the investor and collecting thing. I've got the chat in front of me and I see a bunch of people chatting. So I wanted to give some shout outs to folks. I see Dingo here saying that he loves the cards and collects master sets, which slows down his investments. Found that really funny.
Yeah.
Roy in there with some shout outs. Good to see you, Roy. Crypto Mom as well, an inept card collector.
Yeah, there's Dingo. Yeah.
That's awesome. So it's so nice to see people in the chat anytime you're on a live, you know?
Yeah. It makes you feel appreciated, right?
For sure.
Awesome. But I think there was a question. Oh yeah, maybe we'll keep this for later. Or you can just answer now.
Favorite sleeper set.
That's a good one.
It is a good one. So my gut reaction to it is a lot of the stronger Japanese sets from the last couple of years. I think in particular, since they have dropped really dramatically as the Japanese market cooled off, like V-Star Universe and VMAX Climax feel they feel underappreciated to me, with just a lot of potential because they're incredible sets. But I have a strong Japanese bias, so I don't focus on it as much in my content. But when I buy stuff, like I basically buy Japanese stuff exclusively.
Where does the buy come from?
It's a combination of things. I think the more I learned about Pokemon, it started with the design of the Japanese sets. So as I learned that, you know, this new set came out and it's a combination of sets from Japan, and you realize that a lot of those Japanese sets have they're smaller sets with also tighter themes. Like the ideas behind the sets are so much clearer and so much better represented. An example, I guess, would be, I think Evolving Skies is like the perfect example because it's a brilliant set and it's performed exceptionally well, and for good reason. I'm not surprised that many people love it. The main thing people like in that set, though, are the evolution cards. You know, the Rayquaza VMAX, Rayquaza V, awesome cards. Like there are some other good ones in the set for sure, but 99% of the attention, I would say, goes to the evolutions, which all then come from EV Heroes. And EV Heroes was the first set that I identified as I was starting to invest, where the quality of that set design really clicked for me all of a sudden, where I thought, okay, this is what makes Japanese sets great. Like there's just what is EV Heroes? It is the evolution set. It is, and if you like the evolutions and you like that theme, then this is the perfect representation of that kind of niche or interest in the hobby. And then when I look at Evolving Skies by comparison, I find it feels a little silly because it's a mashup of 3 sets with EV Heroes, and then you have what do they call it, Blue Sky Stream, and the Skyscraper one. I forget what it's called, but the one that has the Duraludon VMAX in it. And the inclusion of those sets, I think, waters down the rest of Evolving Skies. So I really latched on to that idea. It's also the first appearances of almost all the cards. So like right off the bat, the English sets are reprints. Like they're just sort of translated reprints. And so I kind of latched onto the idea of them being like the real original cards. They're from Japan, so they best represent Japan. Quality and condition is way better. And I think my bet, which may or may not come true, right this moment, it looks like it is the wrong bet. But my bet on Japanese is also that all of these reasons that I've come to love the Japanese product over English are reasons that more people in the English market or international markets may feel and may ultimately slowly gravitate more towards Japanese. And so I think it has more upside because of that. With the latest boom that the Japanese market went through, maybe not for a little while still. And I think there was a time where I thought that surely they were producing less Japanese product than English because it's a smaller market. The amount of Japanese 151 that's been printed at this point, you can kind of estimate just based on the grading volumes of some of the top cards, leads me to think that they're producing Japanese in enormous quantities. Like, I don't think it is that much of a smaller market anymore.
Well, yeah, I actually have, to some degree, data. I mean, I do have data. It depends on how you interpret it, because everyone has data. You can easily have access to data these days in some way or another. Let's not go into there how I get data, but it's what you do with it. And I don't know if you took a minute to take a look at my bot, what I do, on the Discord and on YouTube. So I do have actually access to the numbers in the European market for Japanese boxes as well. And when it comes to 151, we went up all the way after let's say the first big reprint, which was it this summer?
Yeah, back in, was it like May, June, something like that?
Yeah, early summer. Yeah, we went all the way up to 2,000 boxes and that just obviously just the boxes available for sale in the European market, or you just buy them all.
Yeah.
Now we're in the 1,000, which is still, it's big jump. And before the reprint, you were in the 200 to 300. Right. Whereas with other sets, you're in the 500 to 400 boxes. Again, that just what's available for sale in the European market.
Yeah.
There's obviously plenty more in Japan. There's plenty more in the rest of the world. But I think if you compare it, you compare set to set, Japanese, I think it gives you a good idea of what's out there. And I agree with what you said about the distinction within Japanese set. They have more of a defined identity. Which is why I mean, the only Japanese sets I have are 151.
Strong choice.
Which I was able to get at kind of the bottom, which was a bit higher in the EU than the US, because we have a higher, sales tax, VAT, call it whatever you want.
Yeah, it's kind of the same in Canada as well.
Yeah. And I just bought Lost Abyss and Paradigm Trigger.
Cool.
And Paradigm Trigger at $50 euros, whatever, sounds like a steal to me.
Yeah, I think that those are two very strong sets from the Japanese lineup. That are like main sets versus special sets, because internationally the special sets tend to get a lot more attention, but those are really strong ones.
I forgot about my case of Vistar Universe. That I'm proud of. That's my baby.
Good. Yeah. V-Star Universe I think V-Star Universe to date is maybe the best set that Pokemon's ever made. That's maybe a stretch, but it's a really, really strong set, and the prices have lingered lower than they probably should have for a while, it feels like.
I was able to get the case at 60, basically 69 euros per box.
Yeah.
Which was, considering it's a steel case, it's a pretty good price. It was 1.3 thousand euros, which is probably 1.5 American.
Nice. Did you ever think about selling it when it hit that peak? Because I think V-Star Universe was like 150 a box US for a little bit.
Before the year ago? Yeah, possible. Not really planning on it.
Yeah. When the Japanese market was booming, I definitely had products that were seeing good returns, but my perspective is always pretty long term. So I wanted to hold. I wanted more. I was like, no, I'm not selling a year, 2 years later. Like, I'm in this for 5 years or more. Let's let this run. But the correction in the Japanese market has been pretty significant.
Yeah. But did you, were you buying at those prices?
No.
Lesson learned, man.
Yeah. There's some philosophies that I've been forming over my time collecting, but one of them, which is really reinforced in today's market, is that if you're really investing, so I did say I wanted to bring it back to the idea of investing or collecting, because I consider myself more of an investor, but collecting is really important to me. And there's definitely, like, I bought way more than I've sold. I have a hard time making the decision to sell because I have this connection to the things I own, even if they're these sealed boxes of Pokemon cards. So partly in response to that, I've tried to figure out, okay, well, why is it so difficult for me to choose to sell when the market would be indicating that now is the time to sell? And for me, this was the Japanese boom was a great example. I should have sold, because even if I sold, I could have bought the same things back at like 50% or less of the price just a year later, because the market went back down.
You're seeing that afterwards, right? So it's easy to say after it happens.
Totally. It's always easier after it happens. I try to figure out, how do I know, though? How can I give myself better clues when it is happening and the market is in one of those states that helps me override my instinct to hold on to the stuff that I own and actually be able to part with it and sell for a profit? And big part of that is just when the market is booming is your time to sell. Like, you buy when the market is boring, and when you're doing that, you're basically saying, I'm going to hold this for as long as it takes for the market to boom again, because once it booms, I'm going to sell. And I've not bought a lot of sealed stuff during the booms. I mostly started accumulating sealed as things quieted down and prices got more reasonable. And now that it looks like we're heading into this other booming market, which is very exciting, I keep telling myself, I'm going to start selling. Like, this is it. Like, this is what I've been waiting for. Don't screw it up just because you have an emotional attachment to these things. So on the products that are investments, I plan to sell them.
Yeah. I think it also depends on, your strategy at the end of the day, right? Because, it also depends on what you're planning to sell, because I don't know, maybe you're planning to sell some Sword and Shield, perhaps. So let's say you bought, you're almost 2x your money. Maybe you're happy with it and you want to sell, then absolutely, if that's your plan. If your plan, someone else's plan is holding until it goes to 3, 4, 5x, if it gets there, then just because as you said, yes, I absolutely agree. Can easily tell this is a bull market. But it looks like, by the look of it, given this upside thrust in Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield is still lagging behind, considering Sword and Shield, the age and everything that goes into it. So I can still, once it cools off with Scarlet and Violet, because as I always say, money just doesn't vanishes, it just moves. So once I feel like, and obviously I could be wrong, once that money that went into Scarlet and Violet starts to dry out, but back into Sword and Shield, and I think that's when could be the best, if it ever happens, right? Because we don't know at the end of the day, but I think it will be interesting to see how it's going to evolve in the next maybe 6 months.
Yeah, I think there's things we still have to see. So the feeling and the assumption right now is that Pokemon can't keep up with the demand, which is sort of essential to the prolonged boom, right? Like, it's how we end up in these bubbles. It's how I end up spending way too much money on amazing rare cards, is that after a year when not enough amazing rare cards hit the market, it felt like there were never going to be enough of them. And then the reprints were such that they absolutely did. And it feels like we're heading into another period of that, where new modern supply will be constrained relative to demand, just because the demand has increased so much. But you never know. Like Pokemon Company in North America owns the printing company this time around. Like, we don't know if that's going to make a difference at all in how they're able to respond to an increase in demand like this, if it allows them to move faster. And ultimately, I think it was Alex on Nostalgianomics. I heard him say this in a video recently, which is that all these new buyers entering the market and buying aggressively, he's like, they will not stop buying until they start experiencing losses. And if everything they can buy, assuming that they can always get at reasonable prices, they can flip for more money than a month, 2 months, 6 months from now, it kind of reinforces that ongoing buying behavior. And it fuels increasingly higher demand because people are seeing the returns people are getting, people are talking about it. And like, you get the sort of media snowball that happens around these kinds of boom markets. And the only thing that stops it is supply, just like once there's enough supply to satisfy that demand, like all of that hype that is driven by those short-term returns and kind of all the craziness of those markets sort of disappears, and we end up where we were the last couple of years. But the supply is the essential piece to ending it.
But yeah, I see what's his point, and I agree with that absolutely. Once you get burned, and usually you stop playing around. And Daniel is with you. Yeah, I think like I'm mesmerized too, to be fair.
But yeah, so how about you? I guess we talked about some of my mistakes and what I've been doing in this market. How have you been approaching all of these changes?
Thank you, buddy. Well, so I feel like the biggest mistake, and that was a mistake, which basically resulted in like a 10% loss, quantified in monetary value, like 50 euros.
Mm-hmm.
But again, usually, if you try to be a pro, you talk about percentage, you never talk price. But it was, I sold the Tina and the Rayquaza, so Lost Origin and EVO Skies, PSA 9, like a month before they just skyrocketed. Like the Tina went to 200 plus, and same with the Rayquaza. Because they were moving, and I said, look, I can parse that money into, I had the opportunity to buy Scarlet Violet for real cheap. So I just said, let's just park the money there. And then boom, one month after, they just jumped, and it was just that was a lack of patience. To be fair.
Yeah.
Other than that, no mistakes, no losses, all in the green.
Damn.
Secret is buy low and wait. Because I was able to get all these kind of sets that I have, I was able to get for around between 85 to 90 euros a box, which, if you translate that into US dollars, it's easy to get boxes in the US for that price, but it's not as easy
in Europe.
The EU. And the Sword and Shield half, I bought well before the boom, well before they jumped to 200 plus, and once after, I never buy after a spike, and which what happened with Japanese 151. I never touched it.
Yeah, I
waited it. Because I don't care about, and that's, I feel like something that maybe it's not talked much here on YouTube. I don't care about making money. I care about not losing money, which could also be something due to risk aversion.
That's very the church of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger there.
Yeah, I don't care if I make a ton of money. I just don't want to lose any.
Mhm.
If I'm not losing, I'm doing better than many other people already. So I buy when I want to buy. I will buy when I feel confident, and the bot with the data helps because I can track data, so on and so forth. Like right now, I don't have any surgeon. Do I want surgeon? Yes. Am I buying right now? No. What happens if it never gets reprinted and I just hop from here? It happens.
Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, not buying right now. Even though it's still I could probably buy for 130, 120 a box maybe. But yeah, I mean, it just might have been luck that I didn't get to experience any big losses or mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm a pro. I wish. I probably wouldn't be here if I was. But yeah, just patient. I don't chasing after money. Just be patient.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, one, that's great. And I think the riskiest plays in Pokemon the last couple of years have been more of like the short term, like flips or I don't know. Maybe if you convince yourself that like the Pokemon Go set was like had a lot of potential. That was maybe the riskiest play that we've seen. But for the most part, it's been pretty. If you're buying sealed products at reasonable prices, it's been pretty safe and like pretty successful. And I think at this point, we have such a long track record of sealed product bought at sort of. I don't like saying MSRP because MSRP for booster boxes is a bullshit price. We all know that like the real reasonable price is less than that because it's just the MSRP of 36 booster packs, which is dumb. But let's say, in the past that expected price might be like $100, $110. Maybe now it's like a little higher. Like maybe it is more like 100 to 100 and I don't know. 100 is sort of like the new 90 or less. I feel like it's kind of like the real low point that you might expect to see. And all I'm trying to say is once you get into that radius, like that range, you can be pretty confident that given enough time, it's not going to be a loss. Like the sets just don't go below that. And there's so much momentum and the Pokemon market is so large. It's always a risk. Like, I mean, I guess this is the perfect, like, not financial advice disclaimer moment because all of this is risky and silly, but it's like, it's pretty safe. So like the thing is, if you just choose sets that are in that range that you think are like good sets, they don't even have to be like the best, they'll usually do well. And sometimes sets that shouldn't do well do better because they're not popular and they don't print them as much. And you're like, oh, wow, like I didn't expect that, but look at this crazy set doing this well. And other times they do kind of exactly what you expect. You're like, this is a great set. Everyone likes it. Like it'll go up, and it tends to. And if you're doing that, you're going to be safe. Where people get into trouble is like Surging Sparks is interesting right now because if we are truly at the beginning of the boom, it should go up a lot more. Like they've probably supplied the market as best they can. They're moving on to, Terastal Festival and getting, I guess it's prismatic evolutions or whatever. Prismatic Evolutions, I guess, is the set in English. Like they're focusing on printing new sets. We know we've got this stacked year of sets coming up with the announcements about Trainers Pokemon and Team Rocket. So they're busy printing new stuff. And if that's true and they can't go back and reprint Surging Sparks and the market continues to grow like it has been, buying now is probably a pretty good call. But you're already buying way above that expected price point. And I think like the past history, to me, Surging Sparks is so much like Vivid Voltage. It's crazy, but I would expect that eventually it'll get reprinted enough that the prices get back down to that expected range. And if you bought at the high or even at today's prices and held during that time, you're going to have a bad time. I did that with Vivid Voltage. I bought 2 booster boxes in Canada. Canada has the same problem as Europe. We don't have deals. Like the type of deals that people talk about having like wide access to in the United States is wild to me. Like we don't have Targets. We have Walmarts, but Walmart doesn't sell Pokemon at MSRP. They jack up the price in Canada, but they don't in the United States. And we have extra like import fees and duties and taxes and all that stuff. So For a long time, Vivid Voltage was like 300 Canadian dollars to like 350, which would have been, 250 plus, give or take. I guess maybe 225 to 250 US. And I bought two at 250 Canadian. So when the prices, I guess, were like 180, 200 US. And they just, they went down to the usual like 100 or less dollars. And so that's just the way they went. And that was risky. I shouldn't have bought it that time. I should have been like, you know what? I don't care if I don't get Vivid Voltage. If it goes down more, I'll buy it at a better price, but it's not a big deal. I really wanted to have one of every booster box at that time. So I was waiting and decided to pull the trigger. So yeah, Vivid Voltage was a real, given the Amazing Rares thing, Vivid Voltage was a big lesson for me.
Yeah. But I feel like you could safely say, well, when it comes to the set itself, Surgeon is much better than Vivid.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, I think it's much better. I think where it might end up being like Vivid Voltage is that Vivid Voltage was a sweet set when it came out too. We just got like way better sets after. We don't know how good the sets are going to be from here, but I think the lineup and then heading into like the 30th anniversary, like there's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of banger sets and like new ideas and stuff that comes out of Pokemon over the next year or two. So I think being one of the better sets that's been released, one of the better mainline sets that's been released so far, might lose a lot of its attention as some of these new sets are released.
Yeah, and I think that's what could happen. That's what might happen, and especially if it gets reprinted, hopefully to the ground. That's what most likely will happen, because it'll get reprinted. People will FOMO. They will start selling. Those new buyers, those people Alex was talking about, as you mentioned, they're gonna sell, panic, we buy fear. At least I do.
Yeah.
So, which it takes too big something down there to buy fear. More in the stock market than in Pokemon, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I would love for that to happen. And I know, and it's not a reprint, but here in the EU, there's another wave coming at the end of the month. Again, not a reprint, probably just another wave. I don't know if it's the same over there in US, Canada, but I know that. And it's also something that we were debating on, because apparently Pokemon now prints in the EU as well. There's been a debate. I've been called an idiot a couple of times. I said, look at the bottom of the box. It says printed in the USA. I said, yes, if you have an American print. If you have a European print, it says printed in the USA and the Netherlands, which is fine. You can say, okay, what is it? Is it one or the other? But then what I have two Paradox boxes. One only says printed in the USA. The other says printed in the USA and the Netherlands. And also the, let's say, European print, they come in different cases. They're like the old WotC cases, 2x3, 3x2.
Oh, interesting. Instead of like a line of 6.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and if you look at, the Pokemon.com, whatever, PokemonCenter.com, whatever, it says they also print in Europe.
Interesting.
So I know what else we need, but so that's, I think it's pretty interesting. But yeah,
wow.
Yeah,
it is funny.
Yeah,
it is funny how you put information out on the internet, and sometimes the reactions can be pretty strong.
Yeah, I get used to it. Plus, I feel like being a YouTuber, you need to either you learn not to care too much, or you are just built that way.
Yeah.
But I just laugh at it.
I was really sensitive to it most of my life, but in my 30s as a Pokemon YouTuber, I seem to finally have grown a little bit of a thicker skin. One of the things is just the awareness that, you know, all engagement is good engagement for the purposes of spreading like your content and your words. So, you know, when I was younger, I had an experience, which I don't think I've talked about this on any like live stream or definitely not in my content or anything, but I recorded, I'm a singer in a band, not a famous band or anything. I'm a working professional. But I started singing and performing in university, and I recorded myself playing a song and put it on YouTube. Didn't tell anyone, didn't spread it with anybody, did nothing about it. And it kind of like caught a little bit of virality, got about 80,000 views at the time. So this would have been in 2009 to 2010. So this was a long time ago. And at first the comments were really positive, and then they started to get more negative and critical as I guess the distribution widened.
Yeah.
And man, like I would get a notification on my phone, like new comment on the video, and it'd be somebody like saying shit about my voice or the performance or something. And it would just like put me in a bad mood instantly for like a day to a week. And I have to like dig myself out because this random stranger on the internet said shitty things about me. But now with the Pokemon stuff, and maybe it's just age and experience, I'm just glad people are looking at it. If someone comments, I reply every time. I try not to stoke the flames. I'm not interested in causing shit, but I'm like, I will reply. I'll get an extra comment on the video, like more engagement, even if it's from me. Like, I don't care. I'm just happy that people are watching.
Yeah.
Took a long time to get there, though.
I mean, it's good that you got there, obviously. But yeah, I mean, many times even those people, you know, just leave negative comment. They just watch 30 seconds of a video,
totally,
and just leave. They're just. I think it'll be interesting to know why they do that. To be fair,
who knows, man? I mean, I'm sure I've left negative comments on videos in my life and forgotten about it. It's just like heat of the moment. You get fired up. You feel strongly about something for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I remember leaving a negative video on one of Leonhardt's videos because it pissed me off. He was opening cards and he was just skipping straight to the hit. And I was like, bro, like that, I hate that so much when content creators do that. I think it just like discredits the whole set. And
okay.
Yeah, the artwork, there's a ton of playable details, which I think he's been playing now, I gather, but he wasn't then. And I don't like the culture of like reinforcing this idea that you open the packs, you just don't even bother looking at the rest, immediately go to the hit, see if it's anything worthwhile and moving on. That really upset me.
Yeah, so maybe especially if you know you're followed, you know, a good part of your audience is kids.
I mean, that is his whole, to be fair, his whole content is it a hit, right? And like that is the nature of pack opening videos. So I don't blame that, but definitely I don't know that he never did that before. I used to watch his videos from time to time, and I just saw him do this one time. I was like, man, I got to tell him that like I at least hate this, so that he at least had some feedback.
Just be kind though. Just be kind. Remember.
Yeah, I wasn't mean. It wasn't like a personal attack. It was just strongly worded that I really dislike that behavior.
All right. I'll wait for some comments of yours under my video then. Looking forward to it.
I see a Nep saying that dude is beyond jaded and mentally checked out of the hobby a long time ago. That was when I first started watching Pokemon content in 2020. Like I really liked him. I mean, it was kind of goofy, but I thought it was like an authentic excitement and enthusiasm that I really latched onto. And I think over time that became my impression too, is sort of jaded and checked out. He's stuck in that like growth at all costs mentality, which I think it's his life, or was. Like, I get it. I think that's one of the challenges with content creation is once you rely on it for your living, you are forced to play the game.
But yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, let's say, I don't know, you know, let's suppose you have to open packs every day.
Yeah.
You're not going to enjoy it as if you were opening, I don't know, once a week, once a month for your birthday, for Christmas. Because I don't open many packs. I love opening packs. I don't do it because I know I'm going to lose money, and it just bothers me. That's
the field collector's dilemma, man.
Yeah.
I know. My girlfriend's like, why don't we open more packs? It's like, because every time I open those products, I just see the lost money. She's like, well, it's only like a $50 box. It's not a big deal. It's like, it's a $50 ETB right now. I see the hundreds it'll be in the future, you know?
Teach him. Yeah. Yeah.
But
that's yeah.
the economics of, to be fair, what the economics of Leonhardt's operations would have been like stress inducing to the extreme, because he is in a market where he only gets views and therefore advertising revenue when he opens something that's really like shocking, exciting, or rare, which mostly meant really rare, expensive products. And then when he opens them, there's no guarantee that it's also a big hit, because I think a huge part of his operation was, you know, he opens a base set pack, he pulls a Charizard, he goes, gets it graded. Hopefully it's a 10, so he can sell that 10 and get his money back and then some on top of the advertising revenue. But if he pulls, I don't know, I'm like, what is, let's say it's like a heavy pack without a holo or something, or it's like a barely heavy pack, he doesn't get a holo, like now he can't resell the contents for anything and is only getting the advertising revenue, but the videos without the big hits won't get shared as much, won't get as many views. Like that is an extremely, I think, extremely difficult content category that he's been at for a long time. So I kind of understand where he's coming from, but yeah, I think he is he's not my fave.
Yeah, I can see that. Dan here is asking about the print quality between EU and NA.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think that's an interesting question. I couldn't. I mean, I couldn't tell, because I've seen some pretty effed up cards for EU prints, like extremely OC, and even I don't want to say miscut, but they were just poorly cut. Like the corners were actually corners. They weren't.
Oh, they were square cornered.
Yeah, almost.
Wow.
It was wild. It was pretty wild.
I mean, I would guess there must be some variations that could happen in the quality.
Just a second. There's someone knocking on the door.
No problem. Yeah, I'll just keep the chat entertained. Don't even worry about it. But I would guess there's definitely some quality variations. But while there's definite quality differences between the Japanese print quality and my experience with English, I don't know. I'd be surprised if there's too much a noticeable difference between the EU and English. Partly because the English doesn't set the highest standard. Like the quality of the cards and the printing from what we grew up with is kind of wild. Like just texture on trading cards was like mind blowing to me when I first encountered that in Pokemon again. But I don't know. There's something special about Japanese. I don't know. I would expect the EU is probably in the same ballpark as NA, and it's probably not that big of a deal, but I could be totally wrong. That corner issue you described is pretty shocking.
Yeah, I think there's a picture somewhere in the Discord. I got a refund for that, it was an experience. For Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh is just crap.
Oh, is it?
Print quality,
problem in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they print it in Belgium, but seriously, like, there's a big. I mean, you print in a PSA 10 goes for crazy money because
it's rare,
non-existence basically. Yeah.
What's an interesting thing about trading cards that I've noticed is, the poor, or certainly the periods of poor print quality in English have almost been a strength of the English sets from like long-term collectability, because it creates inflated values on PSA 10s that are actually hard to get, that then draws more attention and justifies higher prices for the sealed product as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was also Alex and Nostalgianomics talking about this, how one of the reasons he doesn't like Japanese Pokemon cards is because the quality is too high, so there's too many 10s, so you don't get the corresponding, like the prices of 10s are suppressed because of the supply, and then it doesn't reflect as much on the set, and like everything just seems less. It seems like less collectible and less valuable because of it, which is a ridiculous reality. But I see that 100%. Like that's exactly what happens in the market.
I mean,
I don't think he's wrong at all.
I think it makes sense if you think about before Sword and Shield. If you think about Sword and Shield, think about Sword and Shield English, tens of thousands in English.
Tens. Yeah, there's lots of tens for Sword and Shield era.
So what what's the point? And then I think we don't know, but I feel like if you look at vintage boxes, even mid-era, even black and white, even X and Y nowadays, the opening is about the experience. You could some people will eventually want the box for collection purposes. Some you might be able to sell to streamers that just open it, and it's just about the experience, right? So I get what he's saying. I get the point, but to some degree, like even like EV Heroes, which right now is already crazy expensive. We don't know. But if Pokemon doesn't lose popularity, think about it in 10 years. You open one of that, or you have one of that. We don't know. Nobody knows. But what I like to do is when I try to make a point, and it's like I always think and say, if it's in a video, about the counter points. Just gotta think about it every possibility, which
sure.
as humanly as possible. But
well, I think that's what I've always liked about your content, because I have been watching for quite a while. The combination of actual, like, I guess, statistical analysis that is rooted in an understanding of statistics, which is often completely absent from this market, with this willingness to observe, like, this is what I see, or here's an opinion I have, but recognizing that it's all just like speculation and anything can kind of happen. I really appreciate the like actual stats with sort of a seemingly like understanding of the possible variability and outcomes based off of those stats.
Yeah. I'll slip you the 20 after we're done. But yeah, I appreciate you. But yeah, that's why I traded you. Obviously, those of you don't do well. But ever since I started my master, I stopped caring because I don't have the time. Yeah, I think
it's not even like, obviously doing like more detailed analysis is cool and valuable, but it's even just understanding. So I studied finance in school, and I worked as a financial analyst before moving into tech. So my full-time job, I work in technology for the last decade. And there's one thing I found was at least like a little bit of financial experience, both in school and professionally, gave me a basic understanding of like how much data you need to have a statistically significant result. And then I go and watch all this Pokemon stuff, and like some YouTuber will open like 2 new collection boxes that have a total of 10 packs, and they'll be like, oh, these boxes have crap pull rates, or these boxes are amazing, you should go buy them, look at how good the pulls are. And you're like, come on, man. Like,
the way I see it, I think you can. You should be able to say whatever you want. Just acknowledge the fact you don't know what. What I want to say is, yeah, you can say they have terrible pull rates. Just say, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy. If anyone here ever watches PTG or Pokemon
Radio,
PCG Radio, he maintained for a long time. He goes, he's like 3-pack blisters have the best hits, but he always expressed in a way where he was like, I have the best luck with these, and I'm convinced that they're better. It was not like, he was never saying this is actually like a fact or drawing. I guess he was never concluding from his experience that this is always true and applies to everyone. He always just kind of had a like, this is my experience and I swear by it. And I appreciate that. Like that makes tons of sense. But a lot of people seem to really be confused about some of these things.
Yeah, but I don't want to go too much into it because I'm sure I'll say something that I shouldn't be saying on camera. One thing I really don't like, to use a kind word, is just those people who look at historical data. They go, oh, look, this box has done 69,000% in 10 years.
Yeah.
So what? What's the point? So you're telling me you think it could happen again in 10 years from now from one data point?
Yeah.
So one thing is you're saying, look, it happened in the past. I think because of this, that, blah, 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 maybe it'll happen again. But if you say, look, this happened in the past, because it happened in the past, it can happen again, then we have a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It hurts me when these people have a large audience. And it hurts me that these people don't talk about the other side of the coin, which is what I try to do with Saturday. Look, yes, it could happen. We don't know. If we knew, we wouldn't be here. We'd all be rich, as I like to say in my videos. If I knew the future, I wouldn't be here. But we don't know. Here's what you should know, though. These are some of the things perhaps you're interested in that could help you with a decision. But I understand it. What I taught, and I try to be as, I try to keep it simple. I use, as I said, when I was in Maine, my math professor used to say, use the KISS strategy. Keep it simple, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to use that strategy when I talk, just because, you got to know who you're talking to, right? I don't know who I'm talking to. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. Yeah. I just talked about something else. I'm getting heated.
Me too, man. We feel very similarly on these topics, I think.
Yeah. Which is why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you have no lost origin whatsoever.
Yeah.
How's that?
So I have the Japanese sets, but I don't have any of the English Lost Origin.
Do you have all of them or just Lost Abyss?
I have Lost Abyss. Yeah, I have I've got at least one of every booster box from the Sword and Shield era in Japanese.
But is that an investor strategy or is that a collection goal?
That's a collection goal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like the ones that I think I want to invest in, I get extra copies. The ones that I'm not super fussed about, I just get one box or two boxes, open one and keep the other sealed. But so with Lost Origin, I mean, it came out during a pretty volatile time, right? Like we're getting to the end of Sword and Shield. Prices were still pretty low for the Sword and Shield sets. Most people were still obsessed with Brilliant Stars and kind of positioning that as the best set after Evolving Skies from the Sword and Shield era. I'd been buying a lot for a while throughout that time and just didn't have a lot of excess cash that I wanted to use to buy new stuff. And I'd started focusing more on Japanese products and had some sort of specific sets and products that I wanted to put my money into. So I just decided to skip it. I was like, there was enough. It wasn't clear that it was going to emerge as a top set. I thought it was a great set for what it's worth, but I wasn't totally confident in it, and it sort of moved away from investing in English. And so that was basically why. And I'm glad that it's doing so well because I think it's awesome. I have a buddy who bought a case or two at my suggestion, which I was a little uncomfortable with because I basically just told him, I was like, oh, I think this is a great set. Like, if you're going to buy something, it might not be that bad. But I was like, but it just came out. It's really new. We don't know how large the print waves are going to be. Like, no one has any idea what's going to happen. But it's done great. So, yeah, that's basically it. That's the story.
So a couple of things. One, just to keep on the wave of LO. I think that's a good example of, to be fair, the more I think about it, the more I look at it, and especially after what you say, which I totally agree with, Lost Abyss, much better than Lost Origin, purely because let's be real. Lost Origin, the Tina and the Aerodactyl, that's Lost Abyss. So with Lost Abyss, you're taking the good part of Lost Origin. And plus, let's be real again. Do you want to talk about the artwork in Japanese boxes compared to English?
Yeah.
You want to go there?
Let's do it.
I mean, and that actually is something that I would suggest if you feel like, saving some money and bring your girlfriend to some fancy dinner. Instead of buying one box of each, maybe a couple of packs. So you get the same artwork, but it's, hollow, plastic, kind of, you get what I'm saying. Because on the box, it's just a flat cardboard, no effect. But with the pack, you have that plastic-ish effect, which makes it, I think, in my opinion, I like it better. And it costs you 30th, 20th of the price. But I mean, that's just something I started to do. As a matter of fact, I ordered a bunch of them today. And I think the idea is to display, and that's the only collection that I'll have.
Is pack art?
Yeah, because I like it because it's cheap. That's why it's I couldn't, I don't want to sell it because it's cheap. I'm paying a couple of US dollars.
There's a funny thing when you start getting into like the investing realm of Pokemon. Like how I ended up putting more money into investing was this sort of realization. I was like, if I buy a booster box and I sell it for like twice what it cost and I make like $100, I was like, that doesn't materially impact my life whatsoever, like in any way. I was like, it's not even, the outcome is so small. I was like, it's not even that fun. So then I started being like, but if I buy multiple boxes and I put like $1,000 or a couple $1,000 and I get a couple $1,000 out of it, like that felt substantial. I was like, that's something I can work with. And so there is something to be said for if you're collecting stuff where you're like, even if I sold it, I just don't care. Like the money doesn't affect me. It makes it a lot easier to like genuinely just collect it because you love it, for sure. Yeah,
exactly. Plus, I think, if I'm able to frame them, like talking about Eurosos, Device, Scarlet Valley, and Shield, I think that will be a pretty nice display piece.
Yeah, no, they're cool. I think if I look back, I wish that it had ever occurred to me to collect packs when I was like a kid, for example. Like if I had, one of each of the pack arts from like base set Jungle Fossil when I was first collecting, like that I would have been so grateful to have those today because I think they're really cool. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. But again, if we ever thought about it, they wouldn't be what they're worth now.
Totally. For sure.
Which is obviously one of the main counter arguments for Pokemon investing. Everyone is doing it now. What will we see returns? What type of returns will we see?
Yeah. That used to concern me a lot when I started doing this. Is like it feels like this will work out, and the data suggests it. But as you've mentioned, just because it happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. We're in a wildly different market. I remember watching, Rudy from Alpha Investments saying how like everyone says like it's overprinted, it's never going to happen again. This is over. Like the market is irrevocably changed. And he would sort of brush it off and be like, it does the same thing every time. And I'd say, well, I know he's saying that from his experience. But the flip side is that there is a very real and very strong opinion online that it is, in fact, this is the time that it is too much is printed. Like these will never appreciate. The supply is way too high. And now we are continuing to see that proven wrong. And, interesting. Okay. I thought I got disconnected for a second there. I got a message that my chat was disconnected. But now we're getting more evidence that, again, Sword and Shield boxes can appreciate significantly. Just look at Evolving Skies. Like all the same stuff is still happening, but it's only ever happening because that market scenario is increasingly extreme. Like it's more people than ever before. And in the case of modern, more people really focused on modern Pokemon cards who are then driving the demand for it. And I don't know. I think it's going to keep happening. I don't think it's going to slow down. And I think even if it does slow down, the supply dynamic of sealed product gets opened. Well, that's why I primarily focus on sealed. Like I'm really bullish on it because of that core dynamic. Even if the market shrinks, people will still rip packs. They'll still rip boxes open. The supply will still go down. And even in like, as long as the market is stable or not shrinking too fast, the prices should still go up such that, you know, you're not going to like, it shouldn't go down too much in a way that's too painful if you bought at the right prices, if you bought at those like lower end expected prices. The risk comes when you buy something that's already more expensive. So EV Heroes is a great example. Like, turns out you could never buy EV Heroes at reasonable prices. It was always 2, 3, 4 times MSRP for that set. The downside to that is that now it's still worth more, but it's tempered because it came out at a supply that met a very high demand and it was selling for a very high price because of that. But the demand has since gone down, and although the set's still appreciated, it hasn't appreciated as much relative to that entry point. It's still like, but those boxes are still like 7 times MSRP. But if you bought them at 4 times MSRP, you know, you're up. You're not up nearly as much as Evolving Skies is up because it could be picked up at a much closer to expected price point. So that's where the real risk is over the long term. I still think anything could happen. The market could change. You never know.
I mean, I think as investors, what we should know, what we should be aware of is that we don't know the future. Can you go to zero? Yes. Has it gone to zero? No. Can it? Yes. Will it? We don't know. Obviously, if we're here, we're betting against it. But just don't let emotions out of the game as much as that is possible, which is hard. Don't open any of it.
I think for me, it's like, I know I open Pokemon cards for fun, and I know that what I'm doing when I do that. I collect some cards because I love them. I collect some sealed product because I love them. I know what I'm doing when I do that. But when I make an investment purchase, I try to tell myself, like, this is an investment purchase. My sole goal is to make money on this. And that means that I have to sell it when it's profitable, ideally. But I have to sell it eventually. And like, I maintain these clear segments across my collection. So that helps.
That's definitely a good way to go. Yeah, I mean, pretty much every buy that I make is an investment buy. But that's a very good thing. Just being able to distinguish what's collection, what is not, and we don't know. I guess we'll find out eventually.
Yeah, it's just because like most Pokemon investors are also collectors at heart, and so you'll screw yourself by not selling because your collector instinct will take over and you'll find ways of justifying it. So I keep saying, like, I'm really harping on this storyline now because I know that I'm susceptible to this. Like, when I say this, it's because I think prices are going up in this market. I need to sell into that market because that's why I bought a bunch of stuff the last couple of years, was for this market to happen and for me to sell into it. And I know I'm going to justify not selling and create a lot of difficulty for myself. So I just keep reinforcing this mindset in the hopes that I do what I say.
but I mean, I feel like there's, I don't know what's your reason not to sell, but definitely be, fear of missing out on further gains. I feel like that could be one.
That is definitely one.
maybe your inner collector that is like, oh, but that's the last box I have of that set.
I don't know if I can ever sell the last box I have. I think everything I've invested in, I need to keep at least one box. I don't think I could sell them all.
See, that's why you need to buy packs.
Yeah, you might be right.
But
the fear of losing future gains is a big one. And
yeah.
I read a quote recently, and I forget who it was from, but it was something along the lines of, every rich person I know sold too early. And it was just the idea that it's not a gain, like it's not a profit until you actually sell and realize it. And you need to make a habit of actually selling your profitable investments if you ever want to benefit from them. And there's a lot of people who don't get rich because they hold on too long and lose the benefit. And so the flip side of that is that a lot of rich people sold too early. They sold before they hit the peak, before the max, but they sold and profited and they got into something else, and you just keep rolling that forward.
Yeah.
It basically just like a nice quote to tell yourself, it's okay to lose out on those future gains. This is actually the right thing to do over the long term if you're making sensible, strategic investments with your money.
Yeah.
So I really like
that. I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to, we don't know the future. We don't know what's going to happen. We can try to do our best, make our best educated decisions, and time will tell.
Totally.
And I feel like that was a great closing line.
Sure.
But yeah, man. Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I don't want to hold you too long. As I said, yeah. See, I'm all dressed up for unfortunately a dinner. But Gray, it was really nice talking to you. Thanks a lot for coming over, and pleasure meeting you for the first time. I genuinely love how, we're I don't even know, like 8,000 miles apart, maybe a little bit less. I don't know.
Pretty far.
But
yeah.
Like it's pretty close to that number. And here we are, two young men talking about Pokemon from almost the other side of the world. I mean, what's better than this?
For sure.
I guess Pokemon does unite.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was a lot of fun coming on here and chatting. Your audience here was great. I love the questions and the comments in the chat. Got a good response to my last statement there from Prom T2, which I agree with as well. And I think one of the crazy things in this world is I feel like the older I get, the more examples of like two extreme ends of anything both being true, because this is also, I think, very true. Yeah. But the reason I shared that quote is because for me, it was a helpful reminder. It was a helpful, positive take on something that I feel confident I need to be able to do in this coming market, which is part with things that I've acquired as an investment, even though I might feel kind of attached to them at this point. So I just latch on to anything that helps me take that path. But I do think the flip side is that, the Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger strategy is buy high quality assets and hold them for a really, really long time and basically never sell. And that's true too. And there are other ways of leveraging the gains on those than selling.
Absolutely. Well said. All right, great. Once again, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping we'll see you again on the channel.
I'd love to come back.
We would love to have you. We'll make it happen. No worries.
Cool.
And I guess have a rest of your Sunday.
Thank you. Yeah, and if I guess before I go, I am doing two things. I am doing a small giveaway of cards I pulled from a Stellar Crown booster box recently. I haven't actually announced it yet. This is the first time I've mentioned it. There's some cool stuff in it. Let's see what I got here that I can share. Probably the big one is the Hydra Apple EX. So that'll be given away along with a bunch of other hits. It's just going to go to one lucky person. Sign-ups are going to be for my newsletter that I'm starting.
Okay.
So you can go to tcgbuyersclub.com. It'll redirect you. You can sign up if you want. I'll post details there. If anyone's interested. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I've been writing a lot more. A lot of my videos are scripted, and I found the process of writing out my thoughts has really helped me. So trying to lean into that a little bit more with a newsletter. If you just care about the giveaway, feel free to sign up and unsubscribe later. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy what I put out there. So I appreciate it.
And don't forget to subscribe to Gray's channel.
Of course, subscribe
on
YouTube is very appreciated as well.
Awesome. That's a good thing. I should probably script my videos too, but too lazy for that. All right, man. Once again, pleasure meeting you. Pleasure being with you. And I'll see you soon.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you later, Bear. Cheers.